Hi, Steve Towers, BP Group. I'm really pleased to be here at the ITWeb Beyond BPM event. What we originally thought of BPM when it came around 20 years ago was very much looking inside of organisations at how they did things, looking at our resources and how best to use them. Whereas the Beyond BPM theme takes us so much further. It takes us out into the customer experience. And of course that involves everything. And I think of process as being just another name for the work we do. So the evolved BPM theme is very appropriate for the times that we're experiencing at the moment.
BPM is something that is constantly evolving, and I think to make it BPM evolve really captures the fact that it's a journey. We don't realize that we are innovating not because we've created an innovation team, but because we have to solve the problems of our everyday work. I'm Professor Helena Barnard. I teach at GIBS, the Gordon Institute of Business Science of the University of Pretoria, in the areas of innovation and strategic management. Because I'm an academic, I'm not involved with the day-to-day implementation of BPM. I am involved in taking a step back and looking at broader patterns. And one of the patterns that we are seeing very strongly is the power of information and communications technology, the internet, in the business generally, but specifically to connect firms across countries. And how we are able to start thinking globally.
How do we move beyond where we thought of process before?
How can South African businesses leverage their growing, improving technology enablers, but also how can they handle the challenges in the workplace around people, around skills, around the management of people, and how do we use technology and process improvement to remain worldwide competitive? I'm John Hayden. I have a business called John Hayden and Associates, which does consulting. So this conference is exploring where we're at in the evolvement of BPM. But I think evolving also brings to mind that this is just not about throwing technology at business problems.
Business process management, that idea of BPM, there's various different variations on it, and some people like to think of it as a technology. The variation that we espouse is it's an all-encompassing management philosophy, which involves the people, the process, the systems, and more importantly these days, the customer.
We have to look at processes, people, skills, the challenges in managing people. What's happening in South Africa is we are challenged with some limits on the amount of skills availability we have, and perhaps that also affects the scope of some of the projects, that some of the BPM projects might be focused on a single process or a select set of strategic processes moving forward slowly. I think these things don't happen as quickly as one would want. But once they get implemented, I think the benefits are remarkable.
The South African firms in the BPM space are developing some really novel strategies to deal with the skill shortage that we've been faced with.
The whole idea of this event and the idea of bringing the different components together, because there's different themes going on here. There's the people end of things, the process, the technology. Some of the vendors here are the leading vendors in the space as well. It's key and critical for the community to be able to get access to these things, to listen to the latest viewpoints, talk to some of the colleagues in other organisations, because at the end of the day that networking process is key and critical to the success of events like this, and actually push the agenda forward. We can all go back into our respective workplace knowing a little bit more, being able to try out and being able to then relate to our sort of newly made friends and colleagues from such an event as this. It's fantastic.